For our next segment, our Issues Tampa Bay goes on location to downtown Tampa. We sit down with a man leading the fight for the legalization of medicinal marijuana. You're involved in a very large, historical, groundbreaking project that could change a very important law here in Florida. Tell us about your efforts to legalize medical marijuana.
Well, again, I have finite resources. I can only do so much for so many, so I got to pick what I want to do. And I thought, you know, I've had two instances in my family, my father and my brother, who have had terrible injuries or illnesses. Medicine, they were over-medicated, Percocet, Darvocet, OxyContin, Xanax, and they moved to medical marijuana that was not legal when they did it and had immediate relief. And we know it works.
It's proven.
It's proven. Nobody disputes that it works. We know that it's been passed in 20, 30 states. We know it's a plant put into nature for us by God or by nature, depending on your beliefs. And we know the pharmaceuticals company know it works because they've for 40 years been trying to get a pill called Medicinal, but it doesn't work. And so I don't know why water quenches thirst, and I don't know why marijuana helps nausea and it relieves anxiety and kills pain. It just does. And so I said, you know what? In Tallahassee, they wouldn't even have testimony on it. They wouldn't even let testimony, much less a vote.
And when you've heard someone's testimony or have seen it change their being of a person from being sickly to, okay, I'll eat something, to changing you really respect that story. You get it.
People have cancer. These nausea drugs for chemo don't work. They don't work. You've got all these people. The other day I got 400 signatures from breast cancer survivors in Tallahassee, and they sent it to me and they said, please let this happen. I talked to parents who have children with epilepsy, and there's all sorts of breakthrough. Sanjay Gupta recently did a special, and 2 years ago he was against it. And now he said, you know what, the evidence is in, it works. All the way down to things like epilepsy, where children who've been locked in their bodies, and parents have told me, I don't even know who my child is. Can you imagine that? You see this beautiful child, but you really don't know who's in there. And then you have this opportunity. And then you go to Florida legislature, and they say, no, we're not going to talk. We won't even hear testimony. And then I say, okay, well, I'm going to take it to the people of Florida. And then my friend Pam Bondi says, I'm going to try to keep it from going on the ballot. I wrote Pam, I said, what are you, let people choose what they want to do for their own bodies. I said, Pam, if our dogs were nauseated and nothing would fix their nausea, if our dogs were in pain and nothing would fix their pain but marijuana, would we put it in their dog dish?
Sprinkle it right on top.
Like that. Well, why wouldn't we do it for our mother and father, brother and sister, and our children?
Makes a lot of sense. It's going to make a big difference on the impact of agriculture here in our state. Could you put a number on how you think it will financially benefit us?
Well, that's not been my, a lot of people say, you tax it, there's no doubt there's an economic benefit. 60 Minutes did a special on Colorado the other day. I mean, it's revitalized a lot of the areas of Colorado. It's going to reduce crime. It's going to reduce people in jail. It's going to increase real estate. It's an economic boom, in addition to be a merciful act.
Right. Are we going to get any help from our states who have already passed it, helping states like us who have not passed it? But if we do, is there any cooperation between?
No, I mean, I feel like,
so that we don't make the mistakes maybe they made?
Well, we can learn. I mean, I think you look at people and say, oh, look at California. We're going to be able to learn from what California did. They may have put too many stores out. They may have had too many vendors. They may have had, and our law is much tighter. The one I'm proposing is much tighter than California. The good part about going last is I've been able to look around and see all the mistakes that were made before us, and so my language is kind of tailored like that. And also remember, once this is passed, and it will be passed one day, the state regulates the locations. The state regulates who can grow it. The state licenses people to sell it. So it's not like, hey, this is passed and all of a sudden Cheech and Chong are racing down the street, you know, in a chartreuse minibus, and everybody's stoned. And that's not what happens. It's and the state controls it, in the state legislature, and our governor, and Scott would be in charge of that.
You mentioned parents, your parent.
Yes.
You told your kids the dangers of drugs. And what would you advise a parent to say to their child now who might be on the brink of being a teenager, and they've heard, don't do it, it's unsafe, but all of a sudden the teenager's hearing, well, now it's legal, if in fact it does become legal. Advice for parents in talking to their kids about the subject.
Well, look, I believe that people who smoke a lot of marijuana become lethargic. You know, we hear the word stoner. And when we hear the word stoner, we all, it comes to our mind who we're talking about. I have 4 children. They're now 30, 28, 26, and 24. I had incidents where they were smoking marijuana. We live close to the East Coast. I had surfers. And look, I told them I drug tested them. When they failed the drug test, there was repercussions. And I told them I'm not going to sit still for this. They'd lose their car. I would drug test them when they least expected it. And because I don't believe in that. You know, I don't want my, children, using marijuana for recreational purposes, because I have had friends who have been lifelong users, where I'm talking about morning, noon, and night, and I know what happens. But I'm not willing to use that the person who abused it as a reason not to help 500,000 people who are sick and injured. Look, OxyContin, what I'd really warn my children about is don't ever take OxyContin, because it kills 16,000 people a year. Hundreds of thousands are hooked. Millions of people are affected because of the family. Percocet, kids go to school with Percocet, Xanax. All those drugs are terrible if they're not used appropriately. So this is not what I would tell my children is what I told them all the way. You're not going to use marijuana. I don't want you smoking marijuana. If you smoke marijuana, I'm going to take your car away. I'm going to ground you. They're going to be in the repercussions. One time I told them, one son was going back to school, and I said, I have a sneaking feeling you've been smoking over Christmas break. He said, no, I haven't, Daddy. I said, well, we're going to find out. I said, I got a urine test we're going to give you. I said, you're going to go take it. If you fail it, you're going to lose your car for a semester. And if you won't admit it, you're going to lose your car for a month. He looked at me. He reached in his pocket, and he threw me the keys. I said, and by the way, I don't want to tell you which one. I said, and by the way, I'm going to be testing you and watching you forever and ever and ever and ever. And so I'm not this, it's not Cheech and John that's here hoping for medical marijuana. It's, a parent who understands that any drug that's abused or used for recreational purposes is as bad as, alcohol that's used in excess. So that's not me.
And you're also the child of a parent who's been in the situation where that medical marijuana changed their outlook on life and helped them feel better. And you'll do anything for your parents.
I saw an end of life where my father was dying. He was nauseated. He was in pain. He was a guy who, the biggest anti-drug guy in the world. And we was like, Daddy, you're at the end of your life. And he didn't want to do it. And one day he did it. And
that shows you how desperate he was.
Oh yeah, because for him to do it, and know that we're going to know that he did it, because his whole life has been, you don't do drugs, you don't do drugs. And we're like, Daddy, but what do you have? He smoked cigarettes. That's what got him in that. That's what put him in that condition he was in. He died at 66 years old. But at the last 6 months, he had a quality of life. He had a dignity of life. He was, look, you're dying, so it's never good. People talk about marijuana as a gateway drug. It is. You know what the gateway next drug is? It's called morphine. You go from there to the hospice. And so, but at least he was not anxious. They had a cacophony of narcotics. At one time we had him in the hospital, he didn't know where he was because he had so many different pills. We're Ativan, trying to settle his nerves, and pain medicine. He threw all those pills away. He started using the marijuana. He was calm. He was relaxed. His pain went away. His appetite was there. He was still at the end of life, but with dignity and not desperation and panic.
All right. Mr. Morgan, thank you for sharing.
You're very welcome.
Personal stories there, as well as for what you do in Tampa Bay and Orlando. And it's nice that you're helping other people help others. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.